Well, I'm really close to my 100th Creepypasta story. So, to celebrate, let's talk about a pasta that when posted originally was extremely popular, but now has been shunned to the Troll Pasta Wiki. Well, for starters, this pasta was originally written by SlimeBeast, who has written a shitload of popular stories, which includes Funny Mouth, Lost Episodes in Sid's Video, Extra Ketchup, Wobble's World, Abandoned by Disney, and so many more to count. For this story, it was obvious that it wasn't meant to be taken too seriously, but you gotta give props to SlimeBeast for acknowledging the cliches in other stories and downright claiming at the beginning of the story that it's not another one of those typical gaming pastas online, even though it is in certain details. With this in mind, the details in the pictures presented in this pasta do look as if they could actually belong in the game, if it was more demented and had an actual backstory. They are in such excellent detail, and honestly, besides the cartoony blood, which actually doesn't look out of place here, it could be feasible. Honestly, I could see Luigi betray his brother in favor of Bowser because of the lack of attention and love he gets from the fanbase in general, excluding Luigi's Mansion. In spoiler alert, expect to see something special about that game for the Christmas season. But as for this story, I guess it's got a bad rap because of how you can compare this to other stories. As a whole though, I still really like this story, and I know a lot of others out there that still do too. If it makes you feel any better, SlimeBeast claimed that he merely made this story as a joke to other gaming pastas, so this one can't be all that bad in comparison to something like Love Whistle. This isn't one of those haunted game stories. At no point are you going to hear me claim something within the game spoke to me, reacted to my words, or forced me to punch myself repeatedly in the face. No, this isn't a hard game or a game doing something impossible, or even something it shouldn't have. This isn't about a glitch or a hidden satanic message, and at no time did I phone Nintendo headquarters, only to have my questions answered with hushed whispers or anguished screams. This story is about a game feature I don't think anyone else has unlocked. That's it. No ghosts, no conspiracies, just a secret we're all supposed to find, but never did. Something that changes an entire generation's childhood in the very essence of a multi-million, maybe billion-dollar franchise. This is about what I assume to be a previously undiscovered alternate ending of Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. In 1996, I received my first computer as a birthday gift. I have been on the internet before, had used computers before, but it had always been at school or at a friend's house. This one was mine. All mine. I explored the crude prehistoric web at the time with great interest. I downloaded all sorts of pornography and even printed it out, which made absolutely no sense. I also pirated media like a madman. Music, games, anything. This was where I first discovered Mario World. I never had a Super Nintendo as a little kid, so it was all new to me. I had downloaded tons of games along with the SNES emulator, but Mario World was my favorite. For over a decade, the same Mario World ROM was my time-wasting hobby. I played it over and over again, beating the game faster and faster, until I began to lazily explore the world with no particular purpose. Game Genie codes help immensely. I could turn off the timer and relive a particularly entertaining map for an hour as I waited for a download or any number of boring events. It was in this manner that I must have been and re-beaten the game thousands upon thousands of times. There was comfort in the obsessive compulsive behavior of this routine, but all of that was shattered when I saw the Blind Boo. The Blind Boo, as I referred to it, was hovering over the exit from the haunted sunken ship level later on in the game. I call it blind because it actually had no visible eyes. It was like someone had made a lazy ROM hack, but I knew from years upon years of experience that this was just a normal game. The Blind Boo just hung there over the exit pipe, blocking it. I turned my back on it, but it didn't chase me. Well, how could it? It didn't even see me. Then I noticed something else out of sorts. There was a key and keyhole misplaced above the exit. Key and keyholes as such are ways of ending a level in an alternative manner and discovering a secret area. Still, this didn't belong here and I knew it. For a moment, I considered the fact that I've actually broken a ROM file from overuse. After taking a screenshot specifically to show all of you Mario Bros. Fans out there, I picked up the key and opened the door, figuring the game would seize up and I would have to restart. Instead, it opened up a new path on the map selection screen, a whirlpool next to Bowser's already creepy head cave thing. I pressed the right arrow and moved onto the whirling drain. Oh god, no. This didn't really strike me as odd, because if you are familiar with the Mario World game, there's an area called Star World that you may know has similar names. Just stuff like tubular and awesome and all manner of dumb words and phrases. Most of the areas were called Vanilla Forest 1 and Donut Mountain 3, and all that. But there weren't maps with odd names like that. What did concern me though was Mario's expression. Surprise? Shock? Fear? I entered the map. Oddly enough, the whirlpool in the middle of the lake began with the standard castle entry animation. Mario walked up to a castle door, looked up, then went in. I could tell it was underwater though because of the bubbles that periodically emerged from the sprite's mouth and flowed to the top of the screen. Inside the castle, it started to look more and more like I was in fact experiencing a glitch. There was no room to jump, no room to do anything but run left and right. I must have gone right for 10 to 20 minutes, just holding the B button and running along at full speed. After a while, I ran into 1 or 2 blind boos in the darkness above, then 3 or 4. Then the screen was full of them. They just kind of hung there, doing nothing. They wouldn't chase me if I turned my back, as with the previous blind boo. If I made any noise, like Mario's jump sound, they would just kind of shudder a bit. Like they heard the sound of Mario's movements, but couldn't do anything about it. Then something made me stop and turn the other way. Now I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that this map was designed to specifically screw with the player. Not because the giant bleeding bill was hemorrhaging profusely from its face, but because it was inescapable. There was literally no way to avoid being killed by it, as you clearly see above. That is, unless you're like me, and you have the Game Genie cheats on hand. I switched on the code for permanent invincibility. I let the bleeding bill chase me for a while when I was invincible, just to get a good look at that thing. I stopped and killed it with my invulnerable touch, only when I saw a message that hadn't been there when I passed before. I hate you. That kinda creeped me out. But on the other hand, it was kind of interesting because it meant this was definitely a map that was supposed to exist. This was some sort of plot element here. Something undiscovered. What did it mean? Who hated me? King Koopa seemed to be the obvious answer. Or maybe just the ghosts. When you're on a haunted castle that you found by way of a haunted ship, a bloody look and hate message isn't so unbelievable. I saw it again as I approached some giant boos. I was thankful that the blind boos ended at this point, because the more I watched them shudder, the uneasier I felt. I felt almost empathetic towards them. The thankfulness ended when I turned my back on the giant boos, and this happened. Giant boos with faces I hadn't seen before. They always look mad at being awakened, angry that you are invading the haunted houses across the Mario World island. This was different, and they looked gleeful, demented. I could see right down their throats, which seemed odd given the lack of detail that maps usually displayed. And yes, of course I'm going to address that message you saw in the picture. Why won't you die? I don't know why. Am I supposed to? Who's asking? I let the giant boos touch me, and they died like the bleeding bills, of which I had encountered 2. Despite any attempt to skip the player, I knew that being invincible meant invincible no matter what they threw at me. After a while of running down this strange catastrophic corridor with no more eventful happenings, I came to a room with an exit pipe. Taking the pipe downward, I came out the other end and dropped into a room full of water. The water made sense, this being a sunken castle beneath a whirlpool and all. I was rewarded for my troubles with a crushing mark block that released a mushroom for me. I could have easily done this with a cheat code, but the thought had escaped me as I faced all these new and strange sights. The first creatures I encountered in the underwater portion of the castle were Thrumps. Unless you have been living under a rock since the mid-80s, you know thrombs are stone-like square creatures that hang from the ceiling and fall whenever you come near. They try to crush you essentially. Well, these thrombs, lined up in a tight row, dropped repeatedly and randomly with no real trigger or any sense of logic. They would just wait or drop whenever they seemed to feel like it. It also looked like these thrombs had been very successful thrombs. More cartoony blood. This was pretty unusual for the Mario Bros. Franchise, which I hadn't recalled seeing blood in at all. Now I've seen it 3 times. The bloody bills, the messages, and these perpetually smashing, grinding thrombs who are working the victims into pulp. Forever. In the hampering effects of the wire, I walked slowly under these things, making sure every single one touched me and died. There were almost 30 of them in a row. The sight of them mindlessly crushing over and over again just made me hate them with an unsettling intensity. What's weird is that the blood caused Mario to slide as if he were on an ice level. After walking through the gauntlet of depravity, I swam into a more open area that was filled with spikes in the floor and ceiling. It was difficult to swim in this manner without touching the spikes, but since I was still invincible, I didn't think much of it. I avoided them more for fun than out of any sense I would be damaged. It stopped being fun really fast though. Now I knew some of what was going on. The bloody mess of thrombs were unendingly splattering. It was other Marios, past Marios that have tried to traverse this level and failed. I had to admit this was an excellent touch, even if it was a bit ghoulish. Whoever had designed the map actually broke the fourth wall and showed you the bloated, motionless abortions of the player's own careless treatment of Mario's tiny life. The bodies only floated straight up and down a tiny bit, as if to show the effects of a light current. It was genius, and I couldn't believe I might be the first and only person to ever see this. I toyed with the idea of taking more than the one screenshot I just presented to you, basically so all of you reading this could enjoy the secret map as much as I had, especially this weird touch. But without swimming, without kicking or moving in any way, the dead Marios started to come at me like torpedoes. Their faces remained black and blue and dead, but they moved with astounding speed. They angled in position and worked all sorts of unique trajectories that left me almost nowhere to move. They continued coming at me and swarming and backing up to try again, and I just couldn't bring myself to let them touch me. I moved with more speed and skill than I had ever exerted, practically trying to keep Mario free of the draining victims that seemed dead set of rocking straight into him. When I finally reached the purple exit pipe you see above, there had to be 10 of those things right behind, pinching, turning, and chasing me. I entered the pipe as fast as I could, thankful that it worked properly, and had Mario out of that situation in a heartbeat. The corridor that followed was empty, thankfully. It was just a blue underwater hallway of sorts with nothing to avoid or kill. It was boring and predictable like the game had been all these years, which brought back a sense of safety. At the end of the hallway, I came to a standard pair of doors you enter to face a final boss. Beside the doorway, a mushroom power-up. I didn't touch that shit. Going through the door was as you expect. The typical change of map views occurred, and Mario was standing on the ubiquitous bridge over boiling lava. Or had it been blood all along? When Mario walked down onto the bridge, however, there was no boss creature. Instead, Mario immediately looked up to the side and froze. I couldn't control him anymore. He just stood there. Keep looking until you see it. I didn't even see it at first, so I don't expect you to notice it right away. If you still hadn't spotted that thing, look in the third window from the left. FYI, that's not usually there. Mario seemed to regain his composure and looked back and forth slowly, surveying the room. There was still no boss, and I still couldn't control him, so I stopped trying and just watched. This went on and on, for what seemed like forever. Nothing happened. Then a familiar face walked in from the right, dressed in green, tall and angry. It was Luigi. Mario recoiled in horror. It's difficult to say that without thinking how crazy it sounds, But Mario really reeled back with a sort of terror that was uncharacteristic for such a peppy, happy-go-lucky mascot like him. Then Luigi spoke. It was all connecting now. The messages scrawled on the walls. I hate you, and why won't you die? Luigi. He's always been Mario's second banana. The player too, the one who doesn't get the princess in these early games. No matter how identical he was to Mario in skills and ability and tenaciousness and bravery, at the end of the day, the game is Super Mario Bros. And he's just a brother. How he must have hated Mario. Who among us wouldn't? Think about it. No matter what happens, Mario always comes back. No matter how many corpses he leaves littering the battlefield, he's always there once more to leap and cheer and get all the admiration. And Koopa hadn't worked alone. I didn't know what this meant at first, if anything. But again, you just have to think it through. How exactly does King Koopa consistently succeed in kidnapping the princess? From day one, from the original Mario Bros. Onward, it had always been an inside job. Still unable to control the character, I watched Mario simply cower in fear as Luigi leapt high into the air. As high as he could in Mario 2, the bastard child of the franchise. He jumped at the pathetic weeping Mario again, and again, and again. I was powerless to stop it. When he was done, he seemed to look at Mario's limp body with this overwhelming rage. Then the bridge started to disappear. Soon Mario would be dead. As I looked on, I had an irrational thought. Would it be permanent? Within an instant, as Luigi turned to seemingly strike a victory pose like he had been in the level, Mario awkwardly got to his feet and took him by surprise. Fear and sadness and confusion had given way to anger, and Mario overpowered his brother with little effort. To this day, I'm still haunted by the final result of his wrathful reprisal. There was the map's title. None of this was a glitch. None of it was a mistake. It wasn't a developer game back in Nintendo, and it wasn't a ghost hiding in a Nintendo cart. It was a planned, purposeful part of the Mario Bros. Mythos. If you had been the same level X number of times, a secret part of the world opened, and you learned that from Mario Bros. Through Mario Land, Luigi had secretly been working against you, and was in fact facilitating the repeated abduction and abuse of the princess. But why? Money? Power? No. It was all there. Because he couldn't take not being the one in the spotlight. Not being Mario himself. After Luigi died, well and truly died, Mario just sat on the edge of the bridge and wept. I was forced to watch this for minutes on end, before the screen faded to black. I played the rest of the game though to see if anything changed. Nothing else odd happened, as one would expect, since this whole deal was just supposed to be part of the actual full story. I couldn't access the whirlpool again. I had seen the events once, and that was all I was apparently allowed. It was back to the game as usual. The same exact game I played since the 90s, and would probably continue to play for the rest of my days. Well, it was the same, except for the final image. Oh man, that was my last pre-recorded video. Now what am I gonna do? What the hell?